Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience, and today we bring you a new series on the lost teams of the ABA. Over the last 6 months or so, we have done an occasional series on the lost teams of the NBA. Now, those are the teams that at one time played in the NBA but went out of business. Well, now we look at the ABA and the teams that played in that league and now no longer exist. And I love the ABA and its history. The entire league lasted just 9 seasons, starting in 1967 and ending when the ABA merged with the NBA in 1976. During those 9 seasons, the league existed in this mysterious alternate basketball universe. Some of the greatest players in the game spent time in the ABA, like Julius Erving, Rick Barry, Artis Gilmore, Connie Hawkins, Spencer Haywood, David Thompson, Bobby Jones, Billy Cunningham, Moses Malone, Maurice Lucas, and others. However, there is a mystery surrounding the ABA because extremely few of their games were ever televised. There is almost no footage of ABA games. Everything we know about the ABA is from newspaper articles, old box scores, and interviews with the players, coaches, and executives that participated in the league. It has been nearly 50 years since the ABA merged with the NBA, so that group of people who participated in the ABA are still around, but that group is shrinking. However, over the years, there have been documentaries and books that capture the ABA, and one of my favorite basketball books of all time is called Loose Balls: The Short Wild Life of the ABA. The book was written by Terry Pluto, who at one time was the beat writer covering the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has written numerous books about basketball, and if you ever see a copy of Loose Balls in a used bookstore, go ahead and grab it, and I will give credit where credit is due. This book provided a lot of the background as I was putting together the episodes for this series. Now, in all, the ABA only ever had 12 franchises play in the league. Now, to me, it always seemed like at least double that amount because the teams were constantly relocating and changing their names. Now, out of those 12 teams, 11 of them were original to the ABA and were part of Season 1. Later, 2 of the teams went out of business in the summers between seasons 5 and 6, and at that point the league added 1 new team to keep the league at 10 teams. And only 7 of those teams made it to the end of year 9, and of course only 4 of them were allowed entry into the NBA. By the way, the 4 ABA teams that still exist today in the NBA are the Denver Nuggets, Indiana Pacers, Brooklyn Nets, and San Antonio Spurs. So, in going back to visit some of the lost teams, I wanted to start with a team from the same area that I am from, the Anaheim Amigos. I grew up in Southern California, close enough to ride my bike to where the Amigos used to play their games. However, I am not quite old enough to have seen them play. I was born after the team had already left for Utah, and then the merger with the NBA was about to happen. The ABA was desperate to put a team right in the Lakers' backyard. In fact, that is how they selected many of their cities at the start of the league, was to try to challenge the NBA teams for their very same fan base, placing them in NBA cities. Now, not all owners were on board with this strategy. Many were insistent on placing teams in non-NBA cities where they could have no competition for fans of professional basketball. And those opinions were probably the correct one. The ABA teams should have placed themselves in non-NBA cities. The Amigos had a very hard time getting fans to show up. The team went 25-52 in that first season, and they literally had trouble even giving tickets away. Now, part of it might have been that Anaheim back then was still mostly an agricultural community with strawberry fields and orange groves everywhere. Today, the city of Anaheim is completely built up with very few farms left, but back in the late 1960s, the area was not that heavily populated. Now, after that first unsuccessful season, the team decided to move in closer to where the Lakers played, which was about 45 minutes north along the 405 freeway. So the Amigos moved into the LA Memorial Coliseum next to the campus of USC. That building would later become the home of the Los Angeles Clippers during the 80s and part of the 90s. But this move was not just about team relocation. They also decided to change the name of the team, so they were no longer the Anaheim Amigos. Now they were the LA Stars, and they even hired Hall of Famer Bill Sharman to be the coach and general manager. Now remember, this was 1968. Bill Sharman's time as head coach of the championship Lakers was still in the future. He had yet to establish himself as a Hall of Fame coach. Now with the newly christened LA Stars, Sharman improved the team to 33 victories in his first year as a top man with the Stars. In his second year with the Stars, they finally had their first winning season, going 43-41, and lost in the ABA Finals to the Indiana Pacers. But it just was not enough to create financial success. The team was still having trouble putting fans in the seats, and at least to me, the reason was obvious. If I were in a typical middle-class family and I wanted to take my kids to see professional basketball, would I take them to see a team that featured Wayne Hightower and Mac Calvin, or would I take them to see a team that featured Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, and Elgin Baylor? To me, the answer is obvious. I was going to go take my kids to see the Lakers, not the Stars. And this is no offense to Hightower or Calvin, but the Lakers' big three of Wilt, West, and Baylor had already established their Hall of Fame credentials. A startup team was going to have a hard time trying to outdraw the Lakers. They had to sell tickets at deeply discounted prices, so deep that they had a hard time making their money back. However, an incredible thing happened during the third year of existence and the second season in LA. Two rookies came into camp that year by the name of Willie Wise and the aforementioned Mac Calvin. On paper, neither of them had a real chance of making the team. The Stars already had 4 guards on the team with guaranteed contracts. There really was not much room for 2 more. As Mac Calvin described it in an interview, Sharman used to cut players at the end of practice, so Calvin and Wise made sure to clear out of the gym as soon as the practice was over, and they did not stick around in case they were next to be cut. They had it all figured out. The team can't cut you if you're not there. Now, they were more than happy to come in early to get their work in, but they never stayed late. You see, Mac Calvin had something going against him. He was only 6 feet tall. By professional basketball standards, he was tiny, and he knew it, but boy was he lightning fast. In a way, he was Iverson before Iverson. Eventually, the preseason games got started, and the second preseason game, Mac Calvin subbed in during the middle of the second quarter and finished the game with 33 points. And he made the team. Calvin only played that one season for the Stars before getting traded to the Floridians, another ABA team. But in the end, Calvin was a 5-time ABA All-Star. The man could fill it up. But as I mentioned, financially speaking, things were not working out as the LA Stars. They needed to find a place where they had a chance of making a real profit. With that, the Stars relocated to Salt Lake City and became the Utah Stars, and Bill Sharman went with them to Utah, and the team continued to improve. Now, this is a good place to take a break, and I'll be right back with how the Stars did in their move to Utah.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique unique items with a retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row 1 catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row 1 Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with our story on the newly named Utah Stars. Now, they made some big moves upon arriving in the Beehive State. In Utah, they were able to sign Zelmo Beatty away from the NBA, and he was a revelation. Beatty was a two-time All-Star with the Atlanta Hawks of the NBA, but he was only making $37,000 per year, and the Stars offered him $250,000 per year, with much of it deferred, but still, it was an enormous raise for Beatty, so he made the jump. The way that contract laws worked back then, Beatty had to sit out an entire year on the Stars bench before he could play. Now, that might have been a blessing in disguise for Beatty. While he was extremely talented, and I mean he already was a two-time NBA All-Star, he had some of the worst knees in basketball. The year off actually helped his knees to recover, and when he finally did play for the Stars, he scored 23 points and snatched 16 rebounds per game. Now, this was the guy that the Stars had been waiting for. Beatty was a 6'9" center with some serious skill. This was the guy that a team could build around. So, Beatty's jump to the ABA from the NBA sent shockwaves throughout the NBA. By the way, Rick Barry had also made the jump at the same time, moving from the Golden State Warriors to the Oakland Oaks. One of the results of these moves was that the NBA teams started to have to pay higher salaries to its free agents as a way of keeping them in the NBA. The competition between the ABA and the NBA was amazing for player salaries. The NBA knew that players were not going to choose the NBA just because they were the more established league. The ABA was paying extremely high salaries for that day, and some of the players decided to make the jump. Personally, I do not blame them. A professional athlete, especially back then, only had around 10 years to make as much money as possible, and then that money was going to have to last the rest of their lives. Unlike regular people who retire at age 65 and then only live for about 10 or 15 more years, a professional basketball player in the 1970s retired by the age of 30 and then still had to live for 50 more years. They needed the largest nest egg that they could build. Now, let's get back to the story of the Stars. At this point in their history, they hit a wall. Bill Sharman left the team in 1971 to go back to LA and become the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. The Stars went through 4 other head coaches over the following 5 years after Sharman left. There simply was no continuity. But in 1974, they did manage to do something that no professional team had ever done before, at least not in recent memory. The Utah Stars had the audacity to sign a player directly from high school, and that player's name was Moses Malone. Now, we did an entire episode on the college recruitment of Moses Malone and how he eventually decided to forego college altogether and join the NBA. That was episode 77 if you want to go back and check it out. But to make a long story short, the way that the ABA beat out all of the universities that Malone was being recruited by was to stack $25,000 in cash on the Malone kitchen table and called it in advance on his future contract if he would sign the papers right then. Stacking $25,000 on a table would be like stacking $160,000 in 2024, and it was all cash. For a kid living in poverty with his disabled single mother who carried expensive medical bills, this was a no-brainer. Malone did not exactly sign that day, but he would about a month later, and he made the ABA All-Star team in his first season, going straight from high school. He averaged 19 points and 15 rebounds as a rookie. Not even Kobe Bryant or LeBron James made All-Stars as rookies. But the thing that was a bit sad for me in regard to the Stars was that the team made it all the way to the final season of the ABA. However, just 16 games into that final season, they had to close up shop and cease operations. They literally had no money left to keep the business going. Now, if they could have just made it to the end of the season, there was a small chance that might still be around today as part of the NBA, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. They went into basketball extinction. But if there is a lasting impact of the Utah Stars, is that they proved that the state of Utah would support a professional basketball team. In fact, just 4 years after the Stars folded, a brand new team arrived. The Utah Jazz. And the Jazz have been around for about 45 years and are extremely popular in Utah. In a very serious way, the Jazz may not have even considered moving from New Orleans to Salt Lake if the Stars had not already paved the way by proving a supportive fan base. So there you have it. That is the story of one of the lost teams of the old ABA. This was the story of the Anaheim Amigos / Los Angeles Stars / Utah Stars. Join us next time when we share the story of Pete Newell's Big Man Camp. It was a summer training program that grew organically from one player that wanted some extra help and then became a full summer program where big men from both the NBA and college basketball got specialized training by Hall of Fame coach Pete Newell. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.